welcome to Wheel of Foreigner. Answer my question 3 and win a prize for free.
I'm in. Let's do this.
Question 1. Are you from one of the following seemingly unrelated countries? The UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, the Netherlands, or South Korea?
Oh, boy, that was a lot. No.
Hey, that's a right answer.
Oh, man.
Question 2. Do you plan to walk or drive to places you need to go to while in Japan?
Well, I would walk to my schools, but they're pretty far, so driving, I plan to drive.
Oh boy, 2 for 2.
I'm getting all nervous.
Final question. What is your favorite color?
Well, that's easy. Blue.
3 for 3. I also would have accepted yellow.
I won?
You won, sir.
Oh my God, what did I win?
You win a no expenses paid trip to a license center of my choice where you'll have to pass a driving test.
Yeah. Wait, what? Welcome back to the Culture Cafe Podcast, the podcast about people living and working in Japan. Episode 6, Jersey Coffee. How you doing there, Mitsuko?
Moo. I'm doing good. Jersey made me think of cow. Sorry.
Jersey cows. Anyway, I'm Joshua. That's Mitsuko.
Hi.
We're back. Episode 6, Jersey Coffee.
Ooh.
We took a little break because there were festivals going on, or a festival in particular that we attended.
A new festival in your town.
A new festival in my
that
town.
we didn't see last year.
Oh, we didn't see it last year because by the time I arrived last year, it was already over.
No, that's right, huh? Because when did you get here? At the end of July?
Wait, no, I would have been here by now. No, I didn't.
No, you got here like August 1st or something, right?
Yeah, I arrived. It was August by the time I got here. Yeah.
I might have it in my planner book.
No.
Okay.
Because I arrived in Japan July 28th, and then it was 29th, 30th, 31st was orientation, and then I showed up to my town
on the 1st.
On the 1st.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was done already.
Anyway, today's episode. What's the theme for today's episode? Licenses. Thank you.
I was thinking driving or tests.
No,
or
we're talking about driver's licenses today.
Okay.
So we both are proud owners of California driver's licenses.
Yes, we are.
We have been for a number of years. When did you get your driver's license?
Mine was in 2006.
Okay. I don't remember what year exactly mine was in. I think it was 2004. I was 16 or 17. I know that. I know I was 17, so whatever year that was. I don't want to do math.
18.
I was a junior. I was a junior in high school when I got mine. That was a lot of fun. And it wasn't so bad. How many times did it take you to get your license when you took the test?
Once.
You did it on your first try, right?
I had to.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me about that. You were under strict rules to not fail, or you will bring shame to family.
Shame to family.
Yeah, so
yeah,
there was that. Truthfully, I think it took me 3 times in America because I had the 2 times I had instant fails. I was driving my dad's truck the first time, and his brakes were bad on the car, which I'm not throwing excuses out there, but it was a piece of crap truck, and it still is. I think we got rid of it by now. It's gone. It's long gone. But it was a Ford something or Chevy. I can't remember. Anyway, it was terrible. And that car, every month, it's like what it was basically like Wheel of Fortune, except with money, you win a problem with the car. Like, what's going to happen to the car today? The handles broke off the door.
We had a car like that.
Yeah, it was so stupid. That car, every month something happened to it. It was just a nightmare of a car. I wish I remembered exactly what it was so I could unpromote it on the show.
I find it odd that you had to drive your own car during the test. We didn't. We had like rental cars that we got to drive when we were taking the license test.
I think we had cars that you could have driven there, but like because we had our own cars, you could drive your own car. And did you have to drive the rental car there?
Yeah, we parked the car in the front
Oh, wow.
where all the people parked, and we went to the back, and there was a car there that I got to use to drive.
Yeah, no, there maybe there was something like that for us, but we drove our own cars. We were able to. I don't know if I mean, obviously we certainly didn't have to drive, the DMV's cars. But anyway, so his brakes were bad, so I rolled through a stop sign, which is an instant fail because I didn't know that you had to pump the brakes 6 times before it would stop. And then the next time, I was one of the unlucky people that had to parallel park, and I really didn't do that much practice.
I didn't have to do that.
And I bumped the curb when I was backing it up, and that's an instant fail.
fail.
And then the third time I passed. So I think we were allowed 15 mistakes. Like there's like 15 docks, and I was like at 13 docks because I had the grumpiest, worst guy.
I don't remember who mine was, and I had wanted to ask the person too, like how many mistakes did I make? But she just said I passed. So I was like, yay. But I remember making a lot of mistakes on the written test. I think you needed to get like 8 out of whatever, 8 out of 15. And I got like...
You only had that many questions?
9, or I don't remember. If it was 20, like you had to get at least,
I took a 100 question test.
Oh, I didn't.
You had to get like 70 or better.
Or maybe I did. I don't remember. But I just remember...
It was a long test, the one I took. It was like a big, like a Scantron.
Really?
But it was like twice the length of a Scantron and double-sided.
I don't think mine was like that.
Yeah, that was mine. Mine looked like a royal decree, like it unfolds. It goes...
Yeah.
Yeah, that looked like that. Anyway, so that was licenses for us. We had our licenses. We drove very comfortably in America for a long time. And then when we came over to Japan, you didn't have to drive.
Nope, I still don't.
So talk about why you didn't have to drive.
Everything in my town is within walking distance from my house. All of my schools that I go to are really close. So, and then there's a train line that goes through my town, and of course the train comes once every hour, except in the middle of the day where everyone like takes a lunch break and doesn't like run trains anymore.
The train's having a sandwich.
Not really, but there's a big gap in the middle of the day, but they come every hour, so I don't need to drive. There's no reason for me to. I thought about it, and my predecessor did, and my neighbors said that her daughter had a car, but then they realized that the daughter got rid of the car, and I was like, well, it's okay. I don't need one. I'm good.
Yeah, it was a pretty cozy situation, your town.
It's nice.
Because you do go to a junior high school, an elementary school, and occasionally a kindergarten, though that's not officially part of your contract. And I went too. It's great. It's the best. It should be on the contract because those kids, they have the most fun because there's just everything is brand new. It doesn't matter what you try to teach them. They'll be into it. It's like, you guys want to learn how to weave Indian baskets? Yay!
Yeah, they're cute.
It doesn't matter anything. They'll be interested in it. But by the time you get to like junior high school, you're reaching the point where like stuff starts to be cool because
we're gonna learn about verbs today. Yay!
Verbs can walk off a cliff. But they start to be less interested in things or more. I mean, it's so formative. It's touch and go when kids start to get to early teenager years. The things you really like, and everything else is just like put it in a cannon and blow it out into the ocean. Anyway, talking about driver's licenses in Japan, right? So the one thing perhaps you'll notice right away if you come to Japan is that it's a left-hand drive country, which is very different. In fact, opposite, you might say, from America, which is a right-hand.
Might say, yes.
Which is a right-hand drive country. And it got me curious. It got me thinking about left-handed drive versus right-handed drive countries. And I started to read about stuff. So I'm going to ask you some questions, Mitsuko. I did some readings.
Okay.
I did some studyings.
I didn't.
I know exactly. I didn't tell you that I did either. And we're gonna have a little back and forth.
Okay.
Right?
This is my wheel of foreigner, not yours.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what's interesting about the drivers. Before we get into the game, let me throw out some facts for you. Okay.
Okay.
So here's a list of countries that don't have to take the test, but that also drive on the right-hand side. So America is one of the countries that if you are from that country, as in your passport is from that country, you are a citizen of that country, which we are, that you have to take the license test in Japan.
But it varies depending on what state you live in. I know this much.
No,
Yes, it does. I read about this. It varies depending on what state you live in.
You could be from a different state and not have to take the driver's license
You
test
might
in
have
Japan.
to, but maybe like not as soon as California people do.
But it's 1 year. What are you talking about?
Because I was reading about it, and they said it depends on the state you go to. And the same is for when Japanese people come to America. Depending on what state they go to, they might have to change their license to an American one after 1 year, or maybe they only have to I read about it. I can't check right now because I turned the internet off of my phone.
What are you talking about? We're gonna have to fact check that. What I've read is that it doesn't matter where you're from. You're from America. The most you can get is an international permit that lasts 1 year, and after that, if you plan to continue to drive in Japan, you absolutely have to take the driver's license test.
I remember reading that it depended on what state you came from, but we'll check that one.
Yeah, we'll check that.
You could put it on the blog.
Fact checker. Yeah, check the blog after. We'll have some facts checked for you. Anyway, America is a country that's a right-hand drive country, and then when we come over here, it's a left-hand country. So originally I thought it had something to do maybe with the handedness of your driving, right? If you were people that come from a right-handed drive country, that maybe because of their situation that they would have to take the license test because they want to make sure that they have a firm grasp of the rules before they take to the roads in Japan. But it turns out there's a lot of countries that have to take the license test, even though they're not also left-hand drive countries. Now, so here's what's interesting. Okay, so
wait a minute. Say that again.
Okay, so
there's a lot of countries.
There's a lot of countries that also drive on the left-hand side that have to take the test, and there are countries that are right-hand drive that don't have to take the test. Okay. So it works both ways.
I think you said it backwards the first time.
Okay, if I said it backwards, I apologize. So, yeah. So there are countries that are left-hand drive like Japan that must also take the test.
Like Britain.
And there are, well, no, not like Britain.
I know, not like Britain.
And there are countries that are right-hand drive that like don't
America,
have to. Yeah.
But we have to.
But we have to. So here's a list of countries that drive on the right-hand side of the road.
Okay.
As of now, 2014,
okay.
Right? Canada, South Korea, Luxembourg, Finland, France, Germany, Belgium, Denmark, Greece, and so on. So it's actually a surprising amount of countries. When you look at the list of people that don't have to take the test, you think, okay, these are all left-hand drive countries. It's all European, Korea's in there. And Canada, and you go, well, okay. And Canada is a right-hand drive country.
I thought so,
like America.
That's what
and it's very, very, very bizarre. So it's not about that. And like on the opposite side of that, there's I know, for example, South Africa is a country that is left-hand drive, but they also have to take the test, right? So it's not about whether or not the country you came from is a left-handed or a right-handed drive country.
Maybe it's like the rules of the road in countries are different.
It might have something to do with that. Yeah, that
like
what I've heard elsewhere is that these other countries have, on a federal level, the rules are regulated for the entire country, but especially in America, where we have federal rules and then we have state level rules, where it makes it very difficult for Japan to check on everything because they would have to do it for every single state as opposed to just the nation. Like Canada, I believe, has how many provinces? 13 provinces?
I have no idea.
But anyway.
Sorry, Canada.
But America has many states that they'd have to check, obviously, because
50. I was kidding.
Oh, I hope so.
No, there's that one country that wants to be a state.
Oh, are you talking about Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico is the Commonwealth of America.
Right.
And they keep applying for statehood.
Right.
And we keep shoving it in their face.
Right. Keep going.
Anyway, so that's one of the reasons, possibly, is that America has so many states that it would be difficult to check against all of those. I don't know why.
So just quiz everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, why would that make it more challenging? Surely there's somebody whose job it is to find some sort of equilibrium between the laws of one country and another. Like at the very least, someone whose just job it is to like, what does this equate to in this country? You know what I mean? Or just a translator, somebody who happens to speak both languages.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's think about why this might be. Why countries might be left-hand drive and right-hand drive and things like that, right? And why, right? So why are there two different things? Why is there no global standard for this, right?
Yeah.
There's so many. Most countries, as approximately 65% of the countries in the world are right-hand drive countries now. There's a lot that have always been left-hand drive, like the UK and Japan. There's many that have been left that went to right that went to left, some that have always been right. And it's interesting to think about. So let's think. Why might a country, because we're from America, so we think it's backwards, right?
Yeah.
We think it's backwards to be left-handed drive. Historically, everything started off as left-hand.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Now think about why that might be. Do you have any ideas first off the top of your head why that might be? If you don't have one right away, that's okay. We'll jump into something.
No.
Okay. All right. That's fine because I didn't really think about it much either. So, here's something I'm going to throw at you. What did people do a lot of as not so far back as only a couple hundred years ago? Something people did a lot. Not that we don't do it anymore, but something that countries did a lot with other countries.
War.
Very good. Yeah.
Or
right?
trade.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think war, yeah, probably more war than anything else.
Okay.
People used to fight with each other a lot, right?
Yeah. They had to ride horses.
Ooh, okay. They did ride horses. What did they use?
They had to use their left hand to hold on to the reins and the right hand to use guns.
Before there were guns, what did they have?
Bows and arrows.
Okay. Before bows and arrows are around the time.
Knives.
A little longer than a knife.
A sword.
Yeah. People use swords, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But
now,
Link is left-handed.
Link is left-handed because he is created by Nintendo.
Okay. But there are also left-handed people in the world who would use the right hand to hold the horse's reins and the left hand to use the sword.
But a vast majority of people in the world are right-handed.
That's true. And
So
left-handed people are apparently like worshippers of Satan.
and a vast majority that it therefore follows that a vast majority of swordsmen were also right-handed.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes, because you said so.
And but today, a vast majority of people are right-handed. And that's with left-handed tolerance, right?
Okay.
With people not correcting left-handedness.
Yeah.
Now imagine in the past if you were a swordsman who wanted to pick up your sword with your right hand, and far more religious times, we might say.
When you were left-handed?
Yeah. Can you imagine not being allowed to fight with the left hand? So we would say even more so than there would be today, there were right-handed dominant people using things like swords, possibly, right?
Okay.
Now, when you have a sword, when you're your right hand, what side are you putting your sword on? Where is your scabbard?
It's on your left side.
It's on your left-hand side, so you could draw it across your body to your right.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Now, if you had your scabbard on your left-hand side, right, how would you get on a horse?
Wait, you would climb onto it.
You would climb onto a horse, right? But would you get on from the horse's right side or the left side? Think about the right side first.
Left side?
You would get on from the horse's left side, right?
That way you don't, poke it with your sword when you're climbing up it.
That way you don't stab the horse, right?
Even though it's in a scabbard, so
even
it
though it's in a
hurt
scabbard.
It, but yeah.
But it would also be very difficult for you because you'd have to lift the sword up somehow and get it over the horse. So it's very, very, it's not very economical to get on your horse from the right side if you have a sword.
Yeah.
Right? And also, if you were riding a horse with your sword on your left-hand side and you were on the right-hand side of the road, then on the opposite way, the opposite direction coming at you would be someone with his sword hanging from his left side. So both swords would be in the middle of the road and they might hit one another. They might clang in the middle, right?
Yeah.
If you were going down a tight alley or something like that, right? So you're getting on your horse from the left side already. Your scabbard's on your left-hand side. So it would only make sense, therefore, that you would stay on the left-hand side of the road as you rode your horse, because it's easier to get off on the left-hand side, too. Because if you got off on the right-hand side, being on the left, you would be in the middle of the road, and that would be silly.
Yeah.
So these little reasons like this probably contributed a great deal to why most countries, if not everywhere, started left-hand driving, left-handed horseback riding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you get the invention of cars, right? We're skipping forward through history and stuff like that. Now we're coming back to where are we at? We're at America, the foundation of America, right? America's breaking away from Britain, right? They don't want to be colonies anymore. No more subjugation. So what does America do? They literally just go, oh, screw this, right? And they go, we're just changing everything because, and they literally, like, they just change from left-hand side to right-hand side because they're rejecting everything about the kingdom, the monarch, right?
Okay.
So we're just going to, oh man, left hand, oh, that's so England. Let's just switch to the right-hand side of the road.
That's America.
Yeah, right? And how silly that might have been the reason. It's just because we were rejecting everything about being colonized, right?
Yeah.
That we just flipped the table on everything, and then we just went to the right hand side of the road. And then there's obviously the other countries that were right hand side stuff too. Now, when you look at the list of countries that are still left hand side drives, they're all countries that mostly have been colonized by England.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They were all like at one point colonies. So the influence was there. That's why they were left-handed drive countries. Japan was never, colonized by anybody, but they have a long history of swordsmanship, samurai, things like that. And following that same logic of the way you would get on and off a horse, it then makes sense that might have been the way that they adopted their roadedness, right? But also, now we know that trains came to Japan we're going to make Fujii Sensei proud, right? Where did Japan get the technology for trains from? Technology for trains came from, we read it in the book.
It was a long time ago.
It was the whole class
Germany.
about trains. Oh, they borrowed a lot of things from Germany, including a sort of imperialist attitude, but
England.
Yeah, they got the technology for trains from England. They hired British engineers to come, and they built trains in Japan. And we know England was a left-handed drive country, so naturally they stuck to things going on the left-hand side of the road. And then it was just forever cemented in history that Japan was a left-handed drive country. So that's the history. That's kind of, and by the way, this comes from worldstandards.eu if you want to read up more information, really detailed explanations on the history of all this stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff there. But yeah, there you go. So now we have my driving test. I have to take the test. I only have a permit that lasts for it lasts exactly 1 year from the day that I picked, which was August 1st. So my permit expires tomorrow, but I'm going to hang on to it because it's a good souvenir of, actually it's a terrible souvenir. I hate that thing. Let's throw it away. Let's burn it.
I still have mine, even though I never used it.
You do. You have one.
I do. I'm going to keep that. Like, hey, kids, I had to get one of these when I went to another country, but I didn't use it.
So I had to take the driving test. And I originally planned to take it a lot sooner. I've only had my license for 2 weeks I think now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe about. And I wanted to take it a lot sooner, but there were little things that got in the way, like you getting hit by a car. You big silly.
Whoops.
And then my tooth deciding that it was just going to...
You wanted to fall out.
Yeah, wanted to attack the rest of my teeth. And then after that, there was... there was the car. Then I had the tooth thing, which took 5 separate visits to get out and done, which that's all fine now. There's nothing wrong anymore. And then there was the license test, which it takes kind of a while to even apply for it. And my head wasn't in like a let's take this driving test mode when all that was going on, because obviously the accident was terrible and none of us wanted to think about anything other than you getting better. And then the wisdom tooth thing was uncomfortable, and there was just too many other things on my mind, so I didn't apply for it. I had all the paperwork filled out and ready to go, but I didn't want to set up a day and not be able to show up because either my tooth hurt or I needed to get something pulled out. And like I said, 5 separate visits that were like spaced out a week apart, which is a heck of a long time.
Yeah.
To get one tooth pulled. So all that was going on. It all finishes up. Now it's time to take the license test. I do the application. I show up at the driving center. There's only the one place in this entire prefecture that we can go to. And fortunately for me, it's only about a half hour away or unfortunately, it's not that close, even though everybody seems to say, oh, lucky, it's not that far away. And I think, oh, where do you drive to that this is like, I guess it's not that far away, in terms of the world. But so I go down there, I fill out the application process, or I do the application process. And it's funny because they, you showed up with me and you were talking
just twice, yeah,
with the other guy who lives in my town, and he's from Canada. So he didn't have to take the test, but he had to do the same thing which I did that day that we showed up, which was do kind of an interview.
Right.
And that was really strange for me because I sat down behind the counter where everybody works. It would be like as if you were at the DMV, and instead of them asking you questions or like fill out this application, I went behind the counter where everybody's in their little cubicles, and I just sat at a desk there, and the lady asked me a bunch of questions about the circumstances surrounding how I came to acquire a license in America. There was just really specific and really detailed questions about, what state I was from. How long did I drive before I got there? What classes did I take? Did I go to a driving school? How many questions were there on the exam when I got my permit? How long did I have my permit? How,
I wouldn't have been able to answer those questions.
What rights did I have with a permit? How long after a permit did I get to drive or take the test? What did I have to do to apply for the test? When I took the test, was there a written test? All just really, really detailed questions. And this was 10 years ago. Like, I have trouble remembering what I just cooked for lunch today. So that's not true. But that's a long time ago to remember very specific questions about something that I really chose not to remember a lot of because it was very stressful when it happened. So I answered to the best of my ability, and that's really all they were looking for, is just generic things to check up on, which was another strange thing because I don't know what they were checking. Like, when they're not going to call the DMV and make sure I was telling the truth.
Right.
And I can't be the only person from California that's ever done the driving license here. So I'm not sure what exactly it was that they were checking, but that's what they did. So that was the interview process. And after I finished answering all the ladies' questions, the lady that was interviewing me, she told me that I would have to wait about a week or so, and they would go over it, they would check it, and then they would give me a phone call and let me know whether or not I was able to actually take the real test, the behind the wheel test. And so time goes by. It was about a week or so. They get a phone call.
And the written test? Or I'm sorry, did you mention
And
that?
the written test, yeah.
Okay.
So about a week goes by. We set up an appointment for the following week. And then I go back in.
On the same day that I had to go to my town for a meeting.
Yeah, you had
So I was going to go with you, but then I had a meeting in my town to discuss when I was going to go back to work. And so I didn't get to go with you that day.
Yeah, so you had that meeting, and I was kind of bummed because I wanted some support there, because it's the thing about the Japanese driver's license test is that everybody bigs it up to be a really, really terrifying thing, and those accolades are not undeserved. It's a really, really intimidating test. It really gets in under your skin. It gets in your head. It's very strict. I'll say that. They're very particular about it.
With lots of paperwork.
There's lots of paperwork. And even when you do the test, though, it's, and this has been confirmed by Japanese friends, that it's less so. It's called the practical test. That's the driving portion is called the practical test when translated out of Japanese, but it's less so a test of how well you can drive the car as opposed to how well you can take the test that everybody is
taking
familiar with. And what I mean by that is there are driving schools that you can go to that show you how the test is going to be done. And like I said, it's not so much about how well you can handle a car and how well you can actually drive. It's how well can you perform on this course that's been laid out before you, these pre-described courses. It's a very interesting thing. It's different. It's not the same exactly. But anyway, so I show up, hand in all the paperwork, and this was okay. I have to. So there was a real. This was just the worst day ever. So that was that Wednesday. that I went to take my driving test for the first time was also the day that I got my stitches in my mouth pulled out. And so the one side, I believe I mentioned it on the last episode, they busted in my mouth when I yawned upon waking one morning. So I was kind of in a little bit of discomfort for a week because they just ripped, and I just had a really nice hole in my cheek for a while. And I go to get whatever's left pulled out, and it still doesn't feel so awesome. It's a little bit uncomfortable. And then the dentist's office is really close to the driving center. It's only about 10 minutes away. So I have an appointment early in the morning, and then I have to wait about 3 hours before my driving test appointment. And then I'm waiting there forever. I show up early. I walk the course. They let me walk the course because I asked. I wanted to see what it looked like. It comes to be about the time 1 o'clock is my appointment. So it's about 12:50. And they ask me, okay, like, can we see all your paperwork? And then I go, ooh, here you go. Like, here's my permit and my California driver's license. And what they wanted to see was a big stack of paperwork that I already turned in the first time when I made my initial appointment and interview. And I was not aware that I had to bring that again. And they wouldn't let me take my test unless I had those documents, even though they made copies of it last time. So we made a deal. I go home and get them, and then I could take my test. That was the deal. So I had to drive a half hour home to get 2 sheets of paper, come back, hand it to them. So I'm late for my test now. And immediately I thought, okay, I failed because I look irresponsible. And everybody's already saying how, like, don't show up late, and, you know, you have to be perfect and you have to drive a perfect test. And I already feel like I failed because in their eyes, I must be someone who, like, I can't even handle the responsibility of hanging onto 2 pieces of paper. So that's in my head now. Now I'm starting to freak out, right? I was a little bit confident beforehand, kind of, but now it's in there. I'm already starting to get nervousness brewing in the belly. I get back. Everybody who was supposed to have taken the test that was already waiting is already done. They're finished because it doesn't take that long. The test is less than a 10-minute drive, if that. I get like this specialty treatment because I'm the only one left. I'm the only one who's taking a test now because everybody, like I said, is done. They take me to the back. I do the written test, which has exactly 10 questions, but it looked like it was part of a longer test because the big Scantron sheet that they give you had space for like 100 questions. And he was the guy
for the really bad people.
The Tanto,
Tanto's on the head.
Yeah,
person.
Proctor, the guy who was in charge of my test that day. He was flipping through a bunch of papers, and it was like a big book, like a really big test, and he was just hand picking questions from it. Like he would just
try this one.
Yeah,
let's see how I could do with this one.
So he handpicked 10 sheets of paper out of this stack, and then he circled it had the number
like
50
the number
on the bottom, so I knew what question it was, but he did me the favor of circling the number on the Scantron so it would be easier for me to find it, which was nice. Thank you. I won't say your name, but
because I don't know it.
But no, I do.
Oh, you do?
I know his name.
Oh, never mind.
But I don't want to put it out there. He was nice. He was a nice guy.
Mr. Nice Guy.
He was the only one I knew. It took me 3 times. I'm gonna break the all the spoilers. It took me 3 times to get my license, and they were 3 different people every time.
Yeah.
So the first guy was really nice, and I wish I would have passed with him. But anyway, he handpicked the 10 questions. Then he told me, it is timed, but don't worry, just answer them, as best you can. This is true. As best you can. It's true and false. Answer is, I believe this was true. That's the best I could do. Well, that's wrong, but that was the best I could do. He just told me, to answer, read the question and answer, what I thought, true or false. I gotta say, the questions were, the one thing everybody tells you is don't worry about the quiz part.
The written test part? Yeah,
the written test part. You've read this before too, right?
Yeah, they said it's like pretty much basic knowledge, common sense stuff. And then there's the English version too, so you'd be okay. But that sometimes they translate it kind of strangely, and so you have to sit there and read it and think about what they're trying to ask you. But once you figure that out, the answer should be pretty obvious.
Yeah, so it was basically like that for me. And I wish I could have taken a picture of one of the questions, but he was there. Proctor was there the whole time, so I didn't want to take out my phone and be like, "Shh." But there was one question that was worded so bizarrely. Like, it wasn't even a question. It was just a statement. That was weird. They were all statements. Like, I enjoy driving on the left-hand side of the road to let cars and pedestrians pass. True? Yes, I do. They were they were all in the form of statements. It was like a really bizarre version of Jeopardy. Like, does this sound like you? Like, I run over people and don't call the cops. No, false. That's not me. I mean, that wasn't one of the questions, but they were very common sense questions, except for one, which I couldn't even understand, like you know how like what you just said right now, you have to read the question and try to think, okay, what's the common sense rule that they're inquiring about here? And I didn't know. I had no idea what possibly they could have been referencing in that question. It was just so bizarre. But I counted in my head, like, which ones were like swish, like that one in the bank. And I had enough. I went back to look at it just in case, I that was like the one that was going to put me over. But I passed that. That was no problem. That was fine. And then he took me out, and then he said, okay, like, you passed that. So this is all in Japanese, by the way. He doesn't speak English. Then he says that, okay, we're going to do the driving portion now. So we walk outside the building, and it's a building isolated. It's like there's nothing around it. And it's just, we walk outside, and then he takes me over to the course, which is, it's pretty isolated. There's really nothing around it, which made me laugh a little bit, because it made me think like they put it in a really, more isolated than Totoriken is already. It's in a place where there's really, really not much around. And I thought, that's so funny, like, in case like someone just goes rogue in the driving test and just crashes out the gate and it's like, haha, and they just take off with the car. They couldn't do any harm. But anyway, he takes me across the street to where the actual driving courses are. And it looks kind of like a road that you might see, but it's enclosed. It's an enclosed driving course, and it's very strange. I don't know, it kind of has a surreal feeling to it when you're walking on a thing that looks like a street, but it's not the street. It's very strange. It just feels like some sort of art installation. So he takes me into this little building that's on the driving course, and it has, on the walls are a bunch of picture frames. And inside the picture frames are different versions of the courses. And they're all, they're these black and white outlined images of the aerial view of the course. And then it has arrows that change colors to help you follow the arrow along as it weaves in and out of itself. And it shows you the course. So if indeed you wanted to memorize the way that you go, you could look at those pictures and do it. And he tells me that today we're on the B course. So I look at the map and I go, okay, B course. I looked at that one. All right, you do these kind of things and that kind of stuff. And I'll have the pictures up on the blog. So feel free to pull the picture up as you're looking at this, and while I describe it to you. So we go outside, and he shows me the car that I'm going to be driving, and it's not a K car. So I drive a very it's like a light-sized car. It feels like what we might call like a smart car in America. But it's a little bigger than that, actually. But the idea is that a K car is a smaller engine car. They cost less money. Basically, for the smaller engine, they're not as powerful. They don't go as fast. But I guess the idea is that they're more economical for people who aren't going to be, racing up and down the streets in their luxury, sports car or whatever. You just need a car to get back and forth to wherever you're going. K cars fit that bill. So I drive a K car because that's the car that I was presented with when I showed up, and I had to pick a car. I only had two to choose from, and they were both K cars, so I got mine. And I drove for a year with that car. And I do realize that I was driving for 10 years before that point, not in a K car, but everything is backwards. I drive on the left-hand side of the road instead of the right. I mean, I used to drive a Cadillac, which could eat this car that I'm driving now. And they're just really tiny, and they're not the same at all. So anyway, he shows me the car, like I said, and it's a regular full-sized car. He explains to me a few rules about what's going to happen. He says we're going to get in the car, we're going to do a little bit of practice, and then at some point he's going to declare that the test is the test, and that will be when the test starts. So it'll be practice until otherwise. So we get in the, or he gets in the car. He tells me to put my bags, because I have my bag in my little small bag that I had all my paperwork in, Kawi bag from Miruku no Sato, which we'll have to do a foodies episode from there because you still haven't been there.
What episode?
Foodies.
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I put all my stuff in the back, and because there's nobody else here, like I said, all the other people have taken their test already. They have to have someone sit in the back seat of the car with you, which is also a very strange thing for me. Someone sits in the back seat while you're driving, and because there was nobody else to take the license test, because obviously I goofed earlier, it's just another instructor sitting in the back of the car, which, hey, that doesn't make me more uncomfortable. So he's sitting in the back. I throw my bags and stuff in the back, and then he goes, okay, the test is starting now, right? And one thing I know that you have to do is that you have to check the front and back of your car. Like, you literally get in front of it, crouch down, and make sure there's not a kid playing in the wheel well, because you might kill him. And then you go to the back and do the same thing and make sure there's not like a dog that happened to have been resting under the tire, which wouldn't matter because I'm taking off, not going backwards. But anyway, but it's silly, but you actually have to do that. You have to get out of the car and check the front and the back to make sure there's nothing there. So I do that. I get in the car, shut the door, and then I tell him in Japanese, because I'm speaking as much Japanese as I can, that I've checked the front and the back of the car. And he goes, okay. So I handle the rear view mirror. I do the little that, even though it was fine. And you just have to touch them.
You gotta exaggerate everything.
And then I got so nervous because the side view mirrors, you have to turn on the car to adjust them, right?
Yeah.
So I turned the car on without locking the door first. And he goes, let's lock the door, shall we? And I go, oh yeah. And so I lock the door and I go, well, that's it, I failed. And then I do the mirrors because I wanted to adjust the side view mirrors, which I guess you don't actually have to do that. The rear view mirrors are the most important, or you could adjust them after you turn the car on. This test makes you that nervous. It's that particular. So I do that. Then I put my seatbelt on, which I think you're supposed to put the seatbelt on before you start the engine.
Right.
And that's all gone to hell already. So I put the side brake. They call it the side brake. I put the side brake down, put it in drive. I check over my shoulder again to make sure there's nobody on an imaginary street that happens to be walking, or a car coming up, even though there's nobody there, because you have to, like you said, exaggerate everything. And then I look to the other side, and then I tell him that I'm taking off. So he goes, okay. So we pull out from the street, and at this point, Mitsuko, I'm gonna ask you to pull up your map that I sent you, and we're gonna look at the map right here, right? So we're looking at B course, okay?
Yeah.
So we're right. This is where it starts, and for those of you, I'll put together a little visual diagram on the blog so you could follow along on the course here. So the orange dot right here is where we start. Those are where the cars are all parked. And he tells me, okay, let's take off. So we go up the street, and then he tells me, okay, so right here, this is the left-hand side, and that's the right-hand side. There's the 2 lanes here on the left, and that one over there is the right-hand side. So I pull out, and he tells me, okay, stick to the left-hand side. So we're still following the little arrow here, right? This arrow right here.
Yeah.
So we're going up the street, and then we come to the first turn, and I brake through it because you have to. They advise you to pump the brakes a little bit before you get into a turn. Definitely don't gas through a turn unless you absolutely have to. So now we're past the turn, and there's the parked car thing. And they didn't mention anything about it being the parked car part of the test. There's just an area that's coned off on my side of the road, and it's not a car in there. It's just cones with like the, like caution tape surrounding it. So I go, okay, this is the parked car thing. In my head, I know what it is. So I put on the blinker. I do the whole thing. You look in your mirrors, you check over your shoulder. You're supposed to give it the blinker 3 count, but there's not enough road there to give it the 3 count. You do it as well as you can. Pull around it, pull back in, and now we're on this side of the turn, right? So we're over here. Now we're coming up through, and then he tells me to pull onto the right-hand side, to make a right-hand turn into this center area, which is where all the signal lights are, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So you notice how on the picture here, it looks like you're supposed to make a lane change, right?
Yeah.
Right? So they didn't say anything about the lane change. He just says to make a right-hand turn, like turn into the intersection here, make a right. And I know, like in any other place, like in America, I would turn into the right-hand lane and then make the right-hand turn. But there was a point later at which I tried to do that, and then he told me that, like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Anyway, I turn a right-hand turn, and for some reason, I remembered him saying that, like, there was a part that was, like, one way, and there was a part that was 2 ways, and now I know what he was referring to was that the right-hand side of the road is a one-way. There's only one lane on that. So he wasn't saying one way. He meant that there was the one lane coming in the opposite direction, and there's 2 lanes running in one. So I thought we were going up a one-way thing. So I make a right-hand turn, and I pull into the wrong side of the road. And then he doesn't slam on them, but he steps on the brakes, stops the car, and tells me, well, you failed. And then he goes, like, this is, Japan, we have to drive on the left-hand side of the road. And he's like, okay, from this point on, it's just going to be practice. We'll finish it, okay? And I go, F, bunch of asterisks, right? And then we go, all right, or I go, all right. And I weasel my way back into the left-hand side of the road. And then we go up this side right here, right? So we make a left onto this side of the street, and then we do the S curve, and then we come out here, and I do the crank, and those are perfectly fine. And then I come out this way, right? And I go up to this section, and I make a right-hand turn again, but I turn into the left or the wrong side of the road again, twice on that time. Like, I almost got to that point, and then he was like telling me, like, please, like, try to remember to stay on the left-hand side of the road. And then we just go through the rest of the course. We finish it, and then he tells me that I failed. So, and then when we pull up to the thing, I didn't pull up all the way to the post because it was just confusing to understand what he was saying at that point. But now, what's weird is that when you look at the road, there's, like I said, the 2 lanes that run one direction, and then there's just the 1 lane on the other side. But the entire road coming up to get to the driving center is it's the highway type road, but there's only 2 lanes, right? And there's the 1 lane that goes west, and there's the 1 lane that goes east, and that's it. It doesn't ever split into more lanes. And those are separated by dashed lines, which is already confusing as it is, because that makes it look like it's one direction.
Right.
Dashed lines, right?
Right.
It's not a white line, a solid white line that indicates that these are 2 separate entities. Dashed lines would infer that this is one direction.
And that you can cross.
And then you
one
can
to
go
the other.
over it, right?
Yeah.
And then there is a solid white line, and that's pulling off the road, off to the side of the road, like with the emergency areas and stuff like that. So that's what the whole road looks like driving up to Yurihama, where the driving license center is. And then when you get on the driving license road, on the test road, they have that same striped white lines that is one direction. Now, the exact same looking road is one direction, and those lanes in my head look like left and right, or I mean, not left and right lanes, but coming and going lanes. They look like
Yeah.
opposite directions to me. And I swear, like, I'm not an idiot. I would never drive on the wrong side of the road anywhere. And I've never done that in Japan anywhere except the driving license test. But when you're on a road that has nothing on it, there's no other cars, there's no points of reference, you can't see the flow of traffic, and you just got off a road that looks exactly like the one you're driving on right now, and it's two directions, it gets in your head a little bit, and being nervous. So I drove on the wrong side of the road, and that's why I failed the first time. And the second time, when I went back, I did the same thing in a different part. It was course B again, and it was a different section, which I'll mark on the map and put on the blog. I'll show you where it happened. And I remember I got back, and I told you, I just like, you were standing outside looking at me when it was over, and I just held up my hands in like an X. And I went, nope. And then you just looked so sad, and you were so depressed for me. You were really upset for me, and I was beating myself up. And then after that, we had a party to go to.
Oh, my work party.
Yeah, you had your school's end of the year party, and they invited me to come along.
Well,
too.
end of the term party.
End of the term party. End of the first term.
I wasn't really there for too much.
But anyway,
first term. Yeah.
We'll do an episode about Enkai too. That's something to.
Oh, they're so fun.
That's something to talk about. Anyway, so the second time I did the same exact thing, and it's just it really got in my head, guys. Don't worry if you've driving with me. I'm not a bad driver.
You're fine. You're good.
really careful.
Yeah.
I'm a careful driver. But man, that test really threw me for a loop. It really confused me. And on the third try, it was a different guy, and I was like, I'm not gonna blow this. And it was A course, so it was different. So I was like, I had B course in my head. I'm like, it's memorized. I've got this. I've got B course. I'm gonna do B course. I'm gonna nail it. I know I've done it twice now. Even though I failed, they let me finish it. That way I can still see it. And it was A course that day. So. And it's a different guy, but he was the guy that was in the car the first time, right? So the other instructor, because they had to have someone in there as well. So I'm going through the test, and from the beginning, I almost pulled out into the right-hand side of the road. And then I was like, nope, not today. And then I just stayed in the left-hand side of the road, and I went through all of the course, and I did the S-curve and the crank were no problem. I mean, honestly, those aren't that bad. They're just not. You just take your time and be very careful about it, and I think you'll be fine. It's just the particular nature of how you're driving, of checking the mirrors, and the very specific order that they ask. The over-exaggeration of everything that you do is very important.
Gotta do that.
And then when I got to a certain point where he wanted me to pull out of the street, in quotes, and turn right immediately, and there's no space. There's like 2 cars worth of space before I pull out onto the street and then have to make a right again. So I asked him, am I making a lane change here? And then he said, please think of that for yourself. So I went, okay, that's a yes, maybe. So I pulled out and then immediately put on the right blinker, changed the lanes, and made a right-hand turn. And then when it was over, I went through the rest of the course, and then when it's over, he gets me out of the car and he tells me, there was nothing in particular that was wrong. And I'm like, oh my God. But he goes, but, you're not supposed to ask questions. You have to try to think about all these things for yourself.
Was kind of annoying. Like, if he was going to pass you, why would he bother telling you, like, when you take this test, you can't really ask questions. So next time you take it, don't ask questions, but you passed. And it's like, well, then I don't have to take it again. So what does it matter?
And then he didn't tell me I passed right away.
Yeah.
No, he just said, Tokuni mondai nai.
Really, there's like no problem.
There was no problem in particular. Yeah, there was nothing, not really a problem. And then he told me in Japanese a long explanation that I won't repeat here because I don't remember it exactly, but I remember what he said was that when you're driving, you can't ask questions. So, you have to think about everything for yourself. And I went, okay, I got it. I just wanted to know because I didn't know what you wanted me to do.
And then I told you, too, when you came over and you told me, like, I asked a question, and, like, I don't know, and, like, blah, and he, like, didn't really tell you that you passed or something. And you were like, maybe I did, I'm not sure, because they were, like, doing paperwork or whatever. And I told you, Well, if you go talk to him again, just tell him, like, I was just asking again because, or I was just asking you a question because my Japanese isn't that good, and I just wanted to double check and make sure I understood you, and which I did hear you say later, and I was like, yeah.
Which I totally did. I told him that, hey, I just really needed to double check. Like, I would never,
I would never ask questions while I'm driving, ever.
yeah, not even that. Like I said that, like I know how to drive, and I wouldn't do something bad,
things.
right? But I wanted to know what he was looking for because I wasn't sure. Because it's perfectly legal to pull across 2 lanes if there's no cars. You could pull out past the first lane to get into the second lane, whether you're making a left or a right? That's acceptable. But I didn't know if he wanted me to make an immediate left-hand turn and stay on the left-hand side of the road and then change signals or change lanes, and then pull over to the right-hand side so I could make the right-hand turn, or if I could just pull straight out onto the rightmost lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Long story short, he passed me. He said I passed, and there was no problem in particular. Then, I take another picture, and it's the best picture I have on any ID that I've ever taken, probably because I was so ecstatic from passing. I'm just glowing. And I'm like a pregnant lady in that picture. It's so beautiful. And we pass, we go home, and we have okonomiyaki because it's so great. We celebrate it. Yeah, no, it was tough. It was a good time. And I've got actually I've got a few stories for you. I've got a friend who lives up north in Akita, Ken, and this friend actually didn't pass the first time as well, just like me. I think this person passed the second time though when I was talking to them, but I was told that this person's test, they had to memorize the map, which was crazy to me. I was told I didn't have to memorize the map. So when my friend was taking the test, the instructor, the proctor, was not giving any instructions about which direction to go and how to turn. And that was part of the test. That was part of what you had to do in order to pass. So it would count against you, obviously, if that's part of the test, if you turned on the wrong side of the road. And can you imagine just a proctor being silent the whole time and saying nothing? How much more intimidating that would be?
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
It would be horrible. Yeah. So, anyways, that happened. That was another person that I talked to about their test. And I've got an anonymous story for you sent in here. This is would you like to read this rider's experience with the driving test?
Sure. Okay.
All right. So please take it away.
Okay. I know I'm not the best driver, but I'm decent. No one's going to die in my car, but there is a chance that you will at some point feel slightly nervous sitting in my passenger seat. Granted, I think that's true for pretty much any driver outside of those exceptional few. Despite having my license for more than 7 years, I find myself once again sitting in a DMV waiting to be called to take a driver's test, as all driving American foreigners must at some point do if they plan to stay in Japan for more than a year. I am fervently rereading the instructions and guides and pictograms I have saved on my phone for at least the 6th time in preparation of the dreaded, notoriously meticulously graded Japanese driver's test. I have the step-by-step guides already playing on a loop in my brain and the course maps nearly memorized. A better student would have them fully memorized. But I've been told that I will have time to look at the maps again before the test, and they tell me which course I am to drive. If I'm going to be given time to look at the maps later, why worry over memorizing an extra one now, I say to calm my nerves. I don't have the best history with tests, especially driver's tests. I'm one of those people who on any normal day could tell you about 10 digits of pi, but put it on a test and it's doubtful I'll make it past 3. So when they bring me out to the course to take the test, I am suddenly quite baffled. I'm used to seeing 2-lane roads with a yellow dividing line in the middle, regularly placed speed limits painted in each of the lanes, road signs facing you when you're going the right direction, and of course other cars on the road. I realize that as someone who has never been able to fully figure out left and right, I have taken all these guides for granted. I am no longer capable of understanding the lane lines painted on the ground. For one thing, there are 3 lanes, I think, and I can't seem to remember which direction each of them should go in. The tester is trying to explain the lanes to me, but I am so nervous now my Japanese is failing me. I just nod and hope for the best. Maybe it will make sense when I'm allowed to look at the maps again, but that doesn't happen. They point to a letter written on the board. It says B. I will be driving course B. I turn to my right to look at the maps on the wall, just to refresh my memory as to which course that is. But before I can even find it on the wall, they are shuffling me outside to the car ready to start. Wait! I realize. They aren't giving me time to go over the course again, and I still can't understand the lane lines. Maybe once I'm in the car, on the road it will make more sense, I pray. It does. For a while. My guesses as to left and right seem to be working, and I decide that there is a chance I might actually pass on the first try. Thinking back now, there was no chance to begin with. I was doomed as soon as I decided guessing was the best method of interpreting lane lines. But then trouble starts. I have misinterpreted the examiner's instructions and am no longer on course. What little memory I have, the course map is not a useless guide. The examiner tries to get me back on course. Migi, he says. That means right. I can do this. I turn on my blinker, count 1, 2, 3, head check, pull to the side of the lane, look both ways, head check, and turn. Suddenly, I feel the car come to a halt. I'm confused. My foot is still on the gas, isn't it? I look down and see the examiner's foot stomped on his passenger brake. Not only did I not pass, his stepping on the passenger brake means I have utterly failed. You're on the wrong side of the road, he says. I look around, and suddenly all my confusion vanishes. The lane lines make sense, and I have most definitely turned into the middle lane on the right side of the road. I know you're American, but in Japan we drive on the left side of the road, my examiner says as I hide my face in embarrassment.
Oh, boy. Yeah. That's when I saw that, when this came to me, I was immediately, I reached out and gave this person a digital hug because it's exactly what happened to me.
Big hug.
And person out there, who you know who you are, don't feel bad about that. It was confusing. I'm surprised more people don't get confused by that sort of thing. It's not easy. It's really easy to point and laugh at somebody for driving on the wrong side of the road when they weren't the one in the car doing the test and under all that pressure. But I think people are lying about why they failed because they think it's so embarrassing to admit that that's what happened.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. That's what
happened.
happened.
I ran over a duck. I failed.
Oh man, they did the duck. Don't you know there's a duck in a box and he could push it at a moment's notice and it makes the duck come out and you got to watch out for the duck. I killed the duck.
He cracked my windshield.
They made me pay for a new duck. But anyway, yeah, no, there's some stories for you out there. How about that? Now, if anybody's feeling a little bit nervous, I've got Amber Garrison has written in with a little bit of advice. She took her test and passed the first time.
Wow, that's nice.
That's pretty amazing, right? So she says she thought she was going to fail when she took her driving test, but to her surprise, she didn't. And a big thing for her was showing the proctor that she had been studying. What she had tried to do was at certain points when the proctor was telling her to turn in a particular direction, she would confirm it and ask right here or left here. And she would talk a lot as she drove to sort of engage in a conversation with the proctor just to double check where she was going, what she was doing, to make sure everything was right. And another thing is that she told herself to go slow a lot. She wasn't driving very fast, which is something I did too when I passed. And I did it all 3 times. She definitely gave it the full 3 count at stop signs. She did a lot of research online. And she even threw us a YouTube link where you could watch a video. It's all in Japanese, unfortunately, if you don't speak any Japanese. But the good part is that you can watch what the driver does, and you can glean from that the ways, the mannerisms, the things you're supposed to do when you take your own driving test. Above all else, just try to be calm. It's a very nerve-wracking experience, but like I did when I was done, Amber talked to her proctor after it was over and tried to go over something that she felt maybe she had made a mistake with, and try to once again engage in a conversation with him to maybe get a couple of those points back in her direction that might have slipped away. And she did it. She passed her first time. So it's possible. There's quite a few people, I believe, just in our prefecture alone that have passed on the first try. It seems to be, I've heard lots of numbers being the average, 3 being the average, 5 being the average, 7, some people say. I know some people that have taken it more than that many times. It's a tricky thing. It's scary. It's a Japanese driver's license test. And I got mine, so I'm clear. I'm out of the woods. What do you think? I think it's time for a Jersey coffee break. How about you?
Moo.
Moo.
Jersey coffee.
Jersey coffee
Oh,
break.
mine's all wet.
Good.
Okay.
So they come in these wonderful glass bottles, which is why I decided to buy it to begin with. Let's see. I'm interested in what.
I smell something.
Yeah, smell Jersey coffee is what I smell. I shook mine up.
You have to shake it?
Or
do you have to shake it?
I don't know. I shook mine up earlier, so but it's been a while. I've been talking for a little bit.
Can I give this to you before it?
Yeah. Ooh, this is not so bad. It's pretty good.
Don't put it there. Put it in the trash. There you go.
This tastes like chocolate milk back in elementary school.
Tastes like coffee to me.
No, I mean tastes like coffee. Well, it's good, right?
Tastes like a little bit of like my coffee that I'll drink at work every day. Kind of tastes like this, except mine would be just a little bit sweeter and much, much warmer.
I mean, this is just regular. It's just regular coffee. There's nothing special about it other than
cafe au lait.
Yeah. Oh, is that what? Oh, it does say that. It's cafe au lait.
Hiruzen
Jersey coffee.
Cafe au lait.
Yeah, pretty cool. 180 millimeters. Comes in these wonderful glass
it
jars.
Must be cold.
That I'm going to use to. Oh yeah, it has to be under 10 degrees Celsius, and that's so not what it is right now.
No. No.
What do you have the air conditioner set to?
Oh, 20. But the drink has to be.
Yeah, but we had it out for a while.
That's true,
It's
we did,
probably
yeah.
room temperature now. Anyway, really good. I recommend
this.
it. Yeah,
I like this.
it's good. Cool. The problem, though, is that it comes in this glass bottle that is a pain in the butt to get rid of after you drink it.
Yes, that's true. So you can keep it and put plants in it.
No, that's what I want to do. I want to put, like, money
Or
in it, or, like,
beetles
like
or frogs.
one yens. Oh, I could put up. That's too small for a frog. Okay. Well, anyway, we're getting close. I thought I would, where's my phone? Where did I put it?
You have it.
Did I?
You have to. I don't have it.
I don't have it.
It's behind you.
Oh, there it is.
To
Where?
your right.
This is my right.
To your left. My bad.
See, you would have failed the driving test too.
I have no doubt I would. That's why I don't drive in Japan. I don't
Okay.
want to drive in Japan. I passed my test. I don't need to take another one.
I don't know why I needed my phone. I know what it's called. Okay, so I'm going to close out this episode with a music recommendation. So this is a song I want you guys to check out. The band is Real Estate. New album, Atlas, came out earlier this year. The song in particular I want to recommend to you is The Bend, in keeping with the theme last time of having music that you drive along to. Because this is the licenses episode, I thought that would be perfect to recommend. It should have been this episode that I recommended the driving song. The Bend is a perfect song to drive to in the late afternoon when you've got the sun bouncing, glowing off the road. There's a particular stretch on Kyugo Sen, the Route 9, which is the heart and vein and blood pumps in the arteries.
It goes everywhere.
Through Totoriken, it's the spine. That road takes you
Yes.
everywhere. There was when I was listening to it, the sun was going down and it was just bouncing off the rails on the side, and it was just wonderful and glorious, and it made me feel real good. And it's a great song to drive to. It's an absolutely perfect song for driving. So I'm gonna throw that out there. Band, Real Estate, album, Atlas. Check out specifically The Bend. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Culture Cafe podcast. Thank you again for listening. And as always, if you have questions, ideas, comments, suggestions, raids, rants, anything, send them on to us at CultureCafeCast@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening, guys. See ya.
Bye.
This show is not sponsored by the JET program. The opinions expressed are those of their respective owners and do not reflect the views of the program as a whole.